I hate to break this to you, but just when you thought you were getting your head wrapped around rounds, you figure out the voice programmer and all its complexity. Now we're going to talk about morphing, and it's going to add this extra layer of complication that can do all these amazing things. It's one of my favorite parts about rounds. So to start, I'm going to show you a practical use application, a very simple patch to kind of give you an idea of what it's capable of. So I was inspired by this patch after watching, this was around Halloween, and I was watching a lot of American Horror Story, and there was this great motif that would run through the entire show where it was like this ramping up pad, and it created all this tension. Think like The Dark Knight is another great example of like that cello that kind of rises, and it creates this spooky transition. So that's kind of what I was going after. So take a listen, and then we'll discuss. And here comes the pad. So essentially, it's creating this very dissonant and ultimately scary kind of sound. Because what's happening here is we're simply using two analog synths. One, they're nearly identical, different waveforms. One has a delay on it, but basically one is pitched down an octave and one is pitched up 2 octaves. So there are 3 octaves separation between them. And we have a slow morph. That's what you see with these rings going around. Simply playing one long sustained note, and we have this set in time. And you'll see in a moment that the progress modes and the voice modes will also have an effect. So for instance, this is in layer, which is important because it's playing all the synths at the same time in this sound block. But basically what you can see is high-pitched, regular-pitched. And each time I hit a note, it's kind of doing this different variation of it. So some pads are climbing, and some of the voices, the pads, are falling at the same time. So it's this really kind of weird transition. So let's actually take a look at another example. This one's titled Transition Morph Pad. 4 different sustained sounds, and I'm going to walk through what the morph can do. This is it's more dramatic difference here. So if we turn on morph, nothing is going to happen until we set these controls. So from the left, this means this is the morph icon. So it tells you it's on. It's that same icon that you turn on inside of any of these cells by just clicking here. Okay. Global means one morph parameter for all of the sound blocks. Block means each block can have its own crazy different setting, which is really fun. Next, we have retrigger, which is basically going to allow the morpher to restart its phase. And that's important because the morphing capability is basically an LFO. So here you have your LFO control in hertz or in note value. And what we can do is just turn up the amount. Notice I have it set to note, so each time it's playing a different sound cell. Now, this LFO is basically bipolar, so I can go, right now I'm going clockwise at different speeds, or counterclockwise. At different speeds. And again, just clicking here, you can give it a note division instead. From there, we have the quantize mode, and quantize basically is going to change how the LFO reacts. When it's set all the way to the left here, it's essentially a sine wave. Nice and smooth. As we move it all the way to the right, we're going to get more of a square wave action. All or nothing, very jumpy. So immediately you can see, depending on how these two dials are interacting, you get completely different sounds. And what's interesting is when you start to blend in between too. I can't tell if it wants to be smooth or sharp, and you get this weirdo blippy kind of modular type of sound. Now, the next section defines how the number of sounds are going to be morphed. So with N, watch what keeps happening. And also keep in mind we have this infinity, meaning it's going to continue morphing until I stop holding the key. Let's set it to smooth here. Just going to keep scrolling through. That's on N. If I set it to 1, it's only going to jump to the next sound cell. And the way we're getting that repeat is because I have infinity still turned on. So watch as I would just hit one note. Lots of different dramatic ways that you can change up your sound. Let's take one more look at the snapshot we've been using, which is complex. Let me turn my tempo back up to about 120. So this is still set to global, but what if we even got crazier and changed the settings for each block? Let's have this one go in reverse and with the quantize setting a little bit in between. Immediately we change it up, set it real fast, and have it scroll through the entire thing as long as we're sustained. So you can see some of the potential. I mean, once you start combining it with different things, it's crazy. Now, one specific thing to mention. We're always morphing between analog or digital, not a blend between both. The engine, I mean, think about it. This is not capable of knowing we're in a subtractive analog style synth with square waves, and then we're going to morph right here into some FM synthesizer, right? It's not going to know how to do that. So even if I tried, did you see how it skips right past it and it starts blending into the next analog one? That's the case here. So it would be amazing if we could. I don't even know that it would be physically or possible in any kind of way. So that's one little caveat, but get experimenting with the morpher. It really opens up creative possibilities.